I'm thrilled to introduce you to the writer and director and co-star of this gorgeous film, Harris Dickinson.
I smell an In-N-Out burger. I just had an In-N-Out burger and I feel repulsed with myself. Thank you for coming and staying. This is very cool. Thank you for doing this.
No, it's my pleasure. I'm thrilled to talk to you. So just watching the tail end of it with you just now made me realize I wanted to ask you about the use of music in this film. Because it's so gorgeous and it's so dramatic. How did you choose your musical selections here?
There was a fair few tracks that were in the script from day one, including that violin track. The problem is that it's the recording that I'd been listening to for a year or so was really expensive. so it had been recorded like 6 other times by other violinists, but most of the recordings were, because it's such a hard piece, it sounds different in each one, and I'd become so attached to that version and that timing of the piece. And then I found a version that was perfect timing, but you could hear this. So yeah, so I re-recorded it myself. No, I'm joking.
What can't you do?
No, I'm joking. And then there was only 5 or 6 cues that we kind of composed with our composer Alan Myson, who goes by Ital Tech. He's an electronic producer and DJ and artist, and we just spent a while together trying to figure out the right stuff for it. But for me, it was like if we spend a lot of time in the quiet, then we're also, in my mind, we're kind of allowed to go quite heavy and quite maximalist with some of the score. At least that's the way I tried to approach it. And then the tracks in the film, we were just lucky that we were able to get them. The Atomic Kitten song in the karaoke, that was like a very iconic song in the UK. I know it didn't really make it over here, but in the UK that's a real like nostalgic kind of pop, a little bit tacky but also amazing, you know. So I wanted that for that scene because it felt like a nice, sincere moment. Yeah.
And the music goes so well with these fantasy elements of the film, which I love. It's a bold departure from the gritty day in and day out of Mike's life. How did you know that that was an approach you wanted to take to depict his inner life?
Well, I think from the script stage, it was clear to me that I didn't want to just do the archetypical sort of social realist film. I knew that I wanted to base it in that and investigate everything fully and really give it the space and the time to explore those themes properly, but I didn't want to be sort of bound to any tradition, and I just kind of like fantasy and escapism, and I like surrealism in cinema, and it sort of lends itself, in my mind, to a story about someone who's incredibly complicated and ultimately is sort of searching for their own inner peace in many ways. So it feels like the more natural landscapes in the film, at least for me, have a relation to my own journey with that, and like my own journey with like solitude and nature and the search for kind of calmness as well, right? Which I think is Mike's a big part of his journey.
Yeah, it's a really cool choice, and I like that you don't overly explain it. There's no hand holding. You know, we can interpret it as we may. I know you wanted to direct for a really long time. I wonder, was there ever a moment on the set of another film or a piece of advice that another filmmaker gave you that kind of gave you that push and told you, okay, now is the time?
Do you know what it was? It was Rose Garnett was someone who was working at BBC Films when I made a short film with them when I was 22. I pitched them this short film, and it was about a soldier and his dad. It was very simple, very sort of kind of contained piece. And then after I made that, she said to me, do you have something longer? And I had this 150-page script that was Urchin, but not, and it was kind of much longer and different. And she really encouraged me and pushed me to explore it properly, and kind of gave me the permission in a way to allow myself to yeah. But a lot of filmmakers, the filmmakers that I've worked with in the last sort of 4 years, you know, Ruben Osson, Sean Durkin, Helena, they all sort of knew I wanted to make films, and so I think they were all very encouraging and supportive in different ways, yeah.
Are you finding time to watch them do what they do outside of your capacity as an actor? Like, are you stealing little pieces of things you want to incorporate to your own work?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird though. I don't necessarily have filmmaking in my mind when I'm acting. Like I have quite a healthy separation, because I don't, like, in terms of bandwidth, when I'm acting, it's nice to be able to just focus on that and be in someone else's orbit. And of course, there's moments on set that I'm soaking in, but I'm not there like trying to like sort of ask or get into someone's process, because I'm aware that would be annoying. But I definitely love watching everything go by. It just comes back to my love of being on a set and just enjoying that environment so much, and being kind of obsessed with the circus of it all, and watching all of the departments do their thing. It really is an amazing thing to be a part of.
But I understand that you were not originally going to be in this film yourself.
No. We had The Rock lined up for.
You got super skinny for this.
Yeah, no, the Smashing Machine came along, and I think he thought, well, no, we we did have an actor. I've said that joke about 6 times, by the way.
It kills every time, though.
I'm sorry. I can't help myself. It's like I'm like a washed-up comedian. We had an actor lined up, but he had to drop out for personal reasons, and that was very close to the shoot. So after speaking with Frank, I'd kind of asked him if he knew anyone, and he was like, "Why don't you do it?" And then I don't know. It made sense in my head at the time. It was definitely something I was sort of grappling with throughout the shoot. I sort of constantly was trying to cut my own scenes, because I was overwhelmed by it, and I really commend anyone that can do it. You know, you see filmmakers like Cassavetes, Fassbinder, even Bradley Cooper more recently, or Xavier Dolan, that do it in full capacity and do it really well, and I admire that, but I found it very difficult and consuming in a way that was, you know, a split of minds in a way that I found quite challenging. But hey ho, it's yeah.
But once you decided, okay, I'm going to do this, did you tweak that role in any way to play it differently than you would have wanted somebody else to play it?
Well, there was a scene, you know, the scene where he's in Mary's apartment and he's on all fours and he's feeding the snake. That was originally scripted. Nathan crawls on the floor wearing Y fronts, and Mary is on top of him. And when I sort of gave myself the role, I said, okay, I'm not going to wear Y fronts. I'm going to do a robe. I'm going to give myself some decency. So there was a few things like that where I thought, no, I'm definitely not doing that. And I didn't have to get permission from anyone, because it was my film. And then there was a few scenes I did end up cutting, actually, yeah. Just because it didn't feel necessary, and I wanted to get away from it, maybe. Yeah.
You're busy. How did you know that Frank Delane was the right guy for this role?
He did a beautiful audition. He came in and really wowed us. He did something really exceptional with the scenes. He kind of turned the material upside down. It was clear to me that he had interrogated it more than anyone, and was willing to try different things within the kind of parameters of my script. So it just appeared to be the most interesting version, and he's a beautiful actor, and he's phenomenally focused and committed, and gave us his time very early on, you know, to kind of get his head around this person. So we were very lucky to have him. Yeah.
It's a beautiful performance. I was going to ask you, as an actor yourself, what kind of discussions did you have with him to come to an understanding of this character? But it sounds like he had a lot of the groundwork done on his own already.
Yeah, he did a huge amount of work. I mean, he's a classically trained actor. You know, he's got the tools in his arsenal. But equally, I think it was about discovering it on the day as well, and letting the people, because so much of Mike's journey and sort of momentary characteristics are decided by the people that enter into his orbit, right? So seeing how he interacts with the girls in the hotel, or the chef, or the guy in the probation room, it all uncovers who he is, and you can't really decide that until you've got those actors in the room. So a lot changed in the rehearsal in terms of the way we thought a scene might go, but we stuck to the script. We changed a few little things here and there. We were lucky that we had the rehearsal, and then Frank was just the kind of actor that would, like I said, he would try so many different versions of it. He's really experimental, and he's bold and kind of fearless in his approach. So it just meant that we really were exploring it on the day as well a lot. Yeah.
It feels like a very raw, naturalistic performance in a lot of ways. It feels improvised in a lot of ways, which I'm sure it was not. But
well, no, improvisation's hard because it can often derail you if you go on aimlessly. I found I would always sort of invite them to change the dialogue or make it their own, but we kind of did that before the shoot because I didn't want to be sort of scrambling around on the day, and it just meant when we turned up we had time to really figure out the best choreography and figure out the camera move and figure out the interactions in a way that felt fully investigated. But I was also just learning on the go. I'd never done it. I'd made some shorts and stuff, but I'd never done it to this scale. So definitely a huge learning curve. Obviously, I have so much to learn still. So yeah.
I was going to ask you about the way you shot, particularly in the beginning when we're watching Mike panhandling, and also later on when he's picking up trash for his job. It feels like you're hiding in the bushes watching him. It feels like you're hiding behind trees and trash cans, and you put him in real situations. How did you shoot those scenes?
Did you set the scenes at the beginning as well?
Yeah, in the beginning when he's panhandling on the streets.
Yes. When panhandling, what is that?
Well, he's asking for money.
Oh, you're sorry, yeah.
Change.
Oh,
I've
never heard that phrase before.
What do you call it?
I don't know.
Panhandling, right?
Panhandling, that's interesting.
Begging for money.
Never heard that. I love
Right.
that. It's interesting. The first part of the film was quite observationally shot. We were hidden a lot. We were hidden in buildings that were high up or behind glass that was not seen, and then we were just on very long lenses, so we were able to be quite far away. We'd give Frank a radio. We'd have scouted the spot. Him and I would rehearse there, and then we would sort of tell him where we were roughly, but we would sort of give him edge of frame, and then we would have some assistant directors who would be in normal clothes and have a hidden radio, so it meant that we could kind of operate very quickly, and it was quite loose, and it meant that he was interacting with real members of the public, and then we would have to run and get consent forms and things like that. Yeah. It was hard, but also I think it then creates something very real, and then a mixture of things. There was actors that we'd hired that we didn't tell Frank about, and so for example in the scene in the square where there's volunteers and the couple kiss, the woman in the leopard print jacket when they're kissing. A lot of people from that scene were, people that I'd kind of gathered over a couple of years that were non-professional actors and people from different theatre companies, and then it meant that on the day we slowly introduced them. So Frank was there with the people that he knew were in the scene, and then the rest of the people just slowly came in, and he kind of didn't know who was real and who was not. And so it just meant that he was in it the whole time, and he didn't kind of escape it in a way. And then later on in the film, like where we fight, for example, that was orchestrated completely because we had to control the environment, and there was a stunt. The fight that we had is it's not exactly crazy, but it was still, we had to orchestrate. So all those people were there from us.
Yes. One of the commenters on our YouTube review of your film said that you really got London right, and that it was very astute the way you depicted all the various ethnicities coexisting, extreme wealth and extreme poverty side by side in the same place. So why was that important to you?
Weirdly, I didn't necessarily like intellectualize that. I just knew that had to be the way we understood the world and the characters that we were, or that I was interacting with when I was working in that community, and I still do. It's just a representation of what London is, and I grew up there, and so it just feels like an attempt at capturing, the truth of it in a way. And also just when we think about different classes and in that proximity, that's everywhere, isn't it? Really, it's not necessarily a localized thing to just London. It's kind of all over.
Got time for one more, Chandler? Cool. What do you hope people take away from your film?
It's always a hard question because the long answer is when you make a film like this, specifically with these themes, I'm cautious to ever have too much dogma attached, or to bash anyone over the head with rhetoric or my own political values or any judgment. Like, we didn't want to judge Mike in the film, so we just presented him very openly in the hope that people can gain an insight into someone going through something very difficult, and hopefully in turn make them think about the way they move through the world differently. But it's not like my goal to sit here and go, now you should do this. But yeah, I think films can do that in a subtle way if done correctly. I don't know.
Definitely. Thank you, Harris, for being here. Thank you all for being here. You can stay in your seats. We appreciate it. So we can get Harris to the airport.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.